everybody, it's Frito here for your Destiny, and today I wanted to take a look back at Destiny 1 as an IP from launch day as compared to where it is now. There's a massive chasm between those two ideas, and at the launch of Destiny 1, it was critically panned. Destiny in many ways was kind of a laughingstock of the gaming community with loot caves and multiple other issues that I'll list off in a second. But the most interesting thing about the game, the main reason why we're even covering the sequel to begin with, is that throughout the years of it existing, with the added expansion packs and content as well as tweaks over time, the game truly did evolve into a complete experience. And now looking back, this complete Destiny package that you get now, the one that I'm experiencing playing through the game now, is a much more full game. But the question that I want to ask to all of you, and after we list off some of the things that we came up with, maybe you can help determine the community's opinion on this, is Destiny 2 prepared to not make the same mistakes that Destiny 1 did? It probably isn't reasonable to expect a Year 3 Destiny amount of content and depth and polish. Destiny 2 is trying some new things, so it's likely that it might fail somewhat and need some post-release patches. But at the very least, we know a lot of things cannot be the same, because the entire gaming community has its eyes fixed on Destiny 2 with memories of their expectations being drastically let down upon Destiny 1's release. Now, it's almost as if the situation is flipped. Everyone knows that Bungie has the ability to build Destiny over time, so now, will the community be more patient with Bungie? And/or will the game from release be more full of a game? Let us know what you think in the comment section down below. Now, let's go over some Destiny 1 launch issues. Most of these actually got fixed over time. Of course, most of the best stuff in Destiny, raids, trials, Iron Banner, House of Wolves, all that special stuff that really enhances the game to a point of magnificence in a way, was added on throughout the years. The base game itself, the story mode, was incredibly short, able to be completed in a few hours. Not to mention, within the story mode, the lore was paper thin. And despite the fact that there is quite an expanded universe surrounding Destiny, the game itself didn't do a good job of traveling through that. The only way to actually absorb the lore that is actually impressive and deep is through grimoire cards that you would unlock to read on the Destiny website. Now, if you're a lore junkie, that might be good, but gaming has surpassed this text-based lore dump that was sort of the norm back in RPG games from like the Super Nintendo. And if they were going to do that route anyway, it sort of was a mistake to even put any amount of time into the cinematics and story elements that it did have. If instead it made it easier to push the story aside so you can get more to popping off alien heads, then maybe it could have been forgiven, but that wasn't the case. They were trying to do too many things at once and didn't really do it right. Beyond that, to make matters even worse, the base game itself kind of felt empty. The worlds didn't have much to do, there's very few activities for players to do, the strikes were limited and basic, leveling was obtuse, and when the best way to farm for gear was through loot caves, you know something's wrong. In every RPG game, you know there's going to be some kind of grind and mission runs of some sort. That's fairly normal. But shooting into a hole, it's not very fun. And of course, they had to fix that. So with all these things considered, Destiny 1 at launch was a fairly shallow game and felt much smaller than the promised large-scale World of Warcraft in a shooter game that it was kind of promised to be. Now, by the end of Year 3, Destiny did become a complete experience, but it took quite a while to get there. Now, I haven't mentioned the PvP at all yet. It's kind of a side conversation for us. We in this channel, of course, are not experts on the PvP yet, at least. But it seems fairly well renowned that Year 1, it was fairly imbalanced. And throughout the years, Destiny had a bit of a identity struggle. But even in Year 3 right now, the PvP isn't so great. At least for our money, the smaller scale modes are where it's at. Everybody loves trials, of course. A big part of that is just the 3v3 combatant nature of it, and that's something that Destiny 2, as we've spoke about already, is going to have in spades, having all the modes be 4v4, limited amounts of power ammo, a single life game mode. All these things prove to have Destiny 2 being a much more competitive multiplayer experience rather than the fairly spam-heavy 6v6 mode. Now, let's get on to talking about Destiny 2. Is it going to surpass the expectations that's set for it now? Will it meet the expectations that we had for Destiny 1? Maybe going down the list of things that we could think of that Destiny 2 has going for it from launch, we can conclude one way or the other. Well, First and foremost, it's fairly obvious that they're going for a more cinematic, streamlined, normal story experience. In Destiny 1, I think they got a little bit too confused. There's a problem with the writers, obviously. It kind of got stretched in too many different ways, and although there was a great story behind the scenes, the game itself didn't really facilitate it in a meaningful way. We know, based upon the trailer that's been put out already, as well as things that the developers have said, we can expect more cinematics, more story, more direct emotional connection to the universe, with the game itself giving us the experience of the world. We don't have to go onto the internet in order to read about the game. The game itself should immerse us into the universe, and that's an exciting thing. I think it's pretty easy to get wrapped up in the late game, grinding for the best gear or really mastering PvP, but having a really solid story mode is what gets the momentum of the game behind it, because if that isn't really there, it might leave a bad taste in our mouths right away. I think we can have confidence that Bungie is going the right direction because all the Destiny 1 DLC already look to do that better. Playing through the game myself, it's very easy to see the difference in quality in the DLC missions compared to the dry, emotionless, detached, normal launch day missions and cinematics. Now let's talk about the Destiny 2 world itself. Beyond a lot of quality of life changes, of course, no going to orbit, Destiny 2 will be a much more streamlined adventure while playing the game. Developers at least have claimed that Destiny 2 is going to have a much bigger RPG experience with a world map that shows public events, where they're happening so you can go flow to those. You'll be rewarded for exploring the map, which definitely didn't feel like something that even mattered in Destiny 1 when the worlds felt kind of small and contained. The map's going to have lost sectors, which basically are hidden sections of the map. Even if it's not an immense amount of exploration, it already is more than Destiny 1 had, that's for sure. And what I'm most excited for is the adventure side story quests. Now, the reason why I like these so much is because the small snippets of lore that they tried to put online instead, I think are more going to be filtered into adventure missions. So you do the small quests, and through them, you gain a small snippet of information about the universe. It's sort of a cool way to both enjoy playing the game and grinding through exploration and shooting stuff, as well as getting a window into the universe's lore. All things considered, the Destiny 2 game environment is going to feel more MMORPG in nature. Now, to what scale is still yet to be seen, but at the very least, it won't feel like a much more confined, smaller experience that Destiny 1 did. As far as gameplay goes, the strikes have been developed into mini raid-like experiences, or so they say. To what degree, we still have to see. The raid is supposed to be coming very close to release, which is important because you don't want players to hit that wall too soon, which definitely was the case with Destiny 1, where they'd play through the game, enjoyed most of it, and then hit a brick wall needing more content. Well, we'll see how Destiny 2 handles that. It looks like with all these things considered, it's likely going to be much better than Destiny 1. And this is probably the most exciting difference for us on the channel. PvP is undoubtedly going to be in a better state. We know Iron Banner and Trials are going to be returning, and there's likely going to be a ranked mode, although it hasn't been confirmed yet. Kind of assume that's going to be the case. PvP is set up to impress, and I think it's important, I kind of mentioned this earlier, but in order for the health of the community to not sort of be divided against itself, it's important that the PvP and the PvE sections of the game are kind of respected in their own corners. You don't really want to see too much conflict between the two, where a weapon or an item is too overpowered in some way, and they sort of break it in both. That kind of gets one side more angry than the other. Luckily now, with the game mode being 4v4, power ammo being set aside to be limited in general, the PvP mode allows for the normal gunplay to be in one area, and then the higher tier gunplay to be an entire tier above it. No longer are they trying to somehow figure out how to balance snipers and shotguns to fit alongside the other normal weapons. Instead, as we've seen with the Destiny 2 PvP gameplay released thus far, the power weapons are in fact powerful, but that's fine because in the PvP context, they're power pickups that you're going to have map control and go get and locate and be aware of. They're not as freely accessible without the enemy team knowing. So guys, with all of that being said, we at the very least think Destiny 2 is set to impress. I think based upon the upsetting Destiny 1 launch, expectations are probably going to be even lower than they were to a more realistic expectation of what a console RPG can do. But I think it's pretty likely that Destiny 2 at launch could be the game we deserved from the Destiny 1 launch. Bungie's learned their lessons, developed Destiny 1 to be in a very good spot, and now it's time for Destiny 2 to be the game we always wanted. I'm not saying that it won't have issues, of course, And we're definitely going to look into those and be commenting on them as the game progresses. But I think with all things considered, it's very likely that we're going to have a good game on our hands. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section down below. Will Destiny 2 be legit? Do you have faith in the game? Or have you been hurt by Destiny 1's lackluster launch? If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to rate it. If you haven't already, hit subscribe, as we're going to be uploading more and more Destiny content as the beta comes out, and of course, even more on release. There's some cool stuff in the description for you to check out, including our Destiny Twitter, which we're just getting off the ground and will more actively be tweeting out news, updates, and opinions on the game when more information has been released. That's it for me. I've been Frito for Your Destiny. I'll see you guys next time.